Well, I have another Goodwill find I wanted to show you. This is, I don't know whether it was $2, $4, something like that. But it's a big fake rose and has fake water in the bottom and even a petal that's embedded in that fake water. And I put it in my room so that I always have a beautiful rose on the cabinet. And I love to have too much. I love to have too much. I've been listening to Charles Stanley this morning, and he's gone now, but he was so kind to come to our conference center in Florida. We had an open air tabernacle, and we used my mother-in-law's home as a meeting room. She had a big sunroom, and we could get about 50 people in chairs in it, and we had several big name preachers like Dr. Rogers and John Bassanio and Dr. Stanley to come and speak to about 40 pastors. And the pastors would ask questions of those experienced preachers. And I remember they would even ask Dr. Rogers where he bought his shirts and what kind of tea he drank, and stuff like that. You wouldn't think anybody would care about, but those young preachers did. And we called that conference "Walking with Giants" because those men were giants of the faith. And I was just listening to Charles Stanley, and it's wonderful to be able to hear Adrian Rogers and Charles Stanley and Vernon McGee and all these people that were so wonderful in their preaching ability. And now that they're gone, they still are being able to witness for the Lord. But Charles was talking about finding a place and a time for prayer and for journaling your prayer and for being able to look back in your journal and draw one line through what God had answered. He said, if you draw one, excuse me, it's early in the morning. If you draw more than one line, you may not see what it was you were praying for. But if you look back in your journal, then later you will see how many times God has answered your prayer. And that's so true. I've done that in the past and should do it again. But I've got journal books, and as I've been through a lot of them, I've seen how God has brought me through things, and it's a blessing to be able to remember those. Today I was reading Ecclesiastes 3, and no matter what your schedule of reading the Bible is, you need to drag that out and read it today because it's just awesome. When we were in school, we had schedules. We had times we had to do certain things, and I remember having a scheduled book for college, where we was certain class on certain day at a certain room, and you had to write it down. It was just daunting sometimes. Then we get married and we have children, and when you have a child, you have to keep a schedule, when to feed them and when to bathe them and, all that kind of thing. And later in life, we get away from the schedules. And when we are retired, we may have no schedule. And that's not good because our own discipline is important. I have remained with one discipline I'm very proud of, and that is that I try to get up at the same time every day, and I try to go to bed at the same time. Your body needs that. And, God fixed us on a schedule. There are day and night, and there's 7 days, and there are times when you get hungry, and times when you get thirsty, times when you get sleepy. That gives us the impression that there is a time for everything, and God has planned it that way. And there should be, as Dr. Stanley said, a time for communicating with the Lord and praying. And having a time and a place is very, very important. And a time to read the Word. I've been negligent about that a lot because get up and I've got an agenda for the day, and I try to get started with it. It doesn't work. The thing you need to get started with is the Bible reading and the Lord, and then the rest of the day will go much, much better. I hope you'll have that kind of a schedule today. It's a holiday, I know, and you may be cooking out, you may be having company, but remember the time with the Lord. And that book of Ecclesiastes that says there's a time for play and time for rest, a time for rejoicing, a time for crying, all of those things. It's a good book to read. God bless you today.